You're listening to The Bon Reid Show on ITV.ie and Irish News Radio. Tomorrow we'll have the wonderful Elva. So today we were catching up or finding out what was happening with the Yellow Vest movement. So we've had a long chat with Glen. And it really was a long chat about finding out what was going on and what the Yellow Vest is about and what to get involved in and how to get involved in the Yellow Vest movement. A fantastic discussion. So tune into that and listen and share on ITV.ie and Irish News Radio. Thank you for listening on The Bon Reid Show. You're listening to The Bon Reid Show on ITV.ie and Irish News Radio. Today we will be speaking to Glen from Yellow Vest. Welcome to the show, Glen. So what's been happening? I saw Ben Gilroy has been arrested. Pretty shocking stuff there. Any news update and what's going on? What's it all about?
Well, he was in contempt of court with the judge for insulting the court, and
how did he go to court? What was that about? Like, how did that come about?
He said that I'm not using his exact words. I don't have his exact words, to be honest with you, but he said that he was in the presence of corrupt judiciary. So the judge held him in contempt for saying it, and as I said, he didn't use those words, but he held him in contempt nonetheless, and gave him a certain time to complete a certain amount of community hours for contempt. Ben contested it, and he went into court 2 weeks ago. I think it's 2 weeks, no, it's over 2 weeks, and the judge, he had till May, as far as I know, to complete the allotted hours, and had no problem doing it. When we went to court, the judge sent him straight to prison.
And why was that? Are they very anti the Yellow Vest movement?
Well, it had nothing to do with the Yellow Vest movement, because Ben was representing a case in relation to the banks and was questioning whether AIB was registered in Ireland or was it registered in Northern Ireland.
And they didn't like that. That's very interesting.
And instead of answering the question, they sent him to jail 3 months.
So he asked a question. That's quite interesting. He asked whether, which bank was it? Ulster Bank, obviously. What?
AIB.
AIB, Allied Irish Bank. Was it registered in Ireland or Northern Ireland?
Or Northern Ireland.
And
so they're using. So I suppose the argument was that if they're registered in Northern Ireland, why is an Northern Irish company using banking or using, I suppose, company law in the Republic of Ireland?
So obviously they must have been registered in Northern Ireland, because any good...
I can't comment on that case.
Yeah, but any good solicitor already knows they're not going to put a question that they don't know the answer to. Obviously it's Northern Ireland. What a clever... That's so strange. So they couldn't argue with him because obviously he was right. So they put him into jail for 3 months.
Yep, 3 months.
All for saying that. Which one? That is crazy. And I saw his poor wife, God love her, crying.
Absolutely. Absolutely, like the injustice of it. We have, convicted paedophiles and convicted, people of other convictions walking around, people with 80 convictions for theft and robbery and walking around scot-free on suspended sentences. And there's Ben Gilroy for contempt of court. A contempt of court is just insulting somebody, insulting the judge and the judiciary. And you have to remember as well that the judge and the judiciary look down their nose on the likes of Ben Gilroy, because they're, technically they're not solicitors, they're not lawyers or barristers, but they're lay litigants. So they know the law, just haven't sat an exam in college.
So what's happening? What are you protesting? Where are you going to be where people can join up? Is there a place? Is it on every place still, or will it continue?
The Yellow Vest movement is it's a movement. It isn't an organisation. As simple as logging into the Facebook page and clicking like and join the protest. It isn't just about Ben. It's about corruption. It's about we've a list of demands that we've made. And,
what are the list of the demands?
Okay, well, there are a mix of demands.
Please do. It's going to be interesting.
So the first one, the foremost, the most important one is we demand citizens initiate a referendum.
Yeah, very good.
Okay. So the second one then is we demand a halt to all evictions and cameras allowed in civil courts.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that applies to Ben's case, because had the people been allowed to see the carry on in the court, then they would know that he's not a criminal.
Oh God, far from it. He's been standing up for people for a long time. Like,
yeah, absolutely, standing up for people's rights. And had people been allowed to see that, they'd know how unjust this is. And frankly, personally, I believe it's criminal. Move on to the third one then would be Leo Varadkar must declare a general election and resign.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. And actually, the fake coalition should all go down. The whole lot is all completely fake. He's no mandate. He wasn't even giving a mandate. Let alone even his party didn't give him the popular vote. He has no right to actually be doing what he's doing. It's completely insane. And the so-called opposition party, which is really not the opposition party, they don't actually argue with anything. They agree with everything he does. Yeah. It's insane. And there's no point having an opposition party if they go, yeah, that's great. The idea of having an opposition party is so if there is corruption, that they are the ones that are able to highlight. He doesn't even want Leo to call general election.
How do you think the most corrupt party in the country is going to hold the other corrupt party to account?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but they're not doing that.
Together.
Absolutely, they're the same party. It's complete corruption. And even things like, Micheál Martin saying, looking, sovereignty is a thing of a way of looking backwards. What a shocking thing to say, considering our history and where we come from.
Read your own constitution, in the constitution. And he's talking about being the old way of looking. So that's lovely, that is. Yeah. That's how you strip people of their rights. That's something the Nazis did. But anyways, the fourth one is the HSE staff responsible for the cervical cancer scandal had to be fired, and then Simon Harris resigned.
Exactly, Simon Harris should definitely resign. But you know who was health minister at the time? Leo. It's not only just resign. They should actually be up for charges of murder.
Well, if it was you and me, we would be. But sure, again, we're with the corruption.
But the amount of women who've died now, they absolutely should be both up for manslaughter, at least.
Yeah, but 100%. And all the staff that are responsible for doing the cover-up should be up for it as well.
Yes.
Because it's involuntary manslaughter. Again, if I knock down a pedestrian accidentally on the street, I'd be done for that. They didn't accidentally do anything. They purposely and willfully
knew what the government was doing.
They then tried to criminalise the women who have died, who've lost their lives, families that have been destroyed. Anyway.
So the government is criminal. Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Sinn Féin, Green Party, all the fascists left. And people think the right, Hitler was the left. Hitler was a socialist, a national socialist. Yeah. And this is what this government...
Party. That's where the word Nazi comes from.
Yeah, and this is what this government is. It's a national socialist. Same Sinn Féin, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, and Green Party are all absolutely for the destruction of Ireland and the indigenous race. At the same time, they're taking mass migration in of people, giving them Irish homes, evicting Irish, and giving these immigrants who don't speak English, giving them homes. The Irish children are being ignored.
I personally don't have an issue with immigrants, and neither does the movement.
What I have an issue is that the Irish should be first in Ireland. And if you have a problem of Irish children going to school without a breakfast, without a home, then that should be looked at first before you even open your doors to anybody. That's like me, like allowing my children to be homeless and then kind of taking some kids in off the streets, kind of go, you come in, here, it doesn't matter, my children are Irish, so, you know, they can just survive. You have to look after your own thing.
There is a solution to that problem. It's a very simple solution to that problem. You know, the government complains that it doesn't have enough resources, and yet there's, you know, 2,500 companies registered in Ireland that don't pay a single penny in tax on global profits. We would have enough money not only to fund our own people and all the problems that our own people and all the problems that our own people and their issues and everybody that's living on this island, their issues, but we would have plenty enough money to take in refugees. We're one of the most charitable nations in the world, and I'd like to think that we would remain that way if our tax system was correct.
But it's not even that, right? That's just a small thing. We paid over 200 billion from our seas into the EU. The EU say that we owe them 200 billion. If we had an independent audit, we would actually know what we owe, so we would not be crippled. So there wouldn't be such thing as an and taking Irish properties away.
Well, that's another way of looking at it. Yeah, like we don't have control of our own resources anymore.
No, all of them are
wrong. I'll get to that in a minute. If you put a pin in that, I'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
Again, I'd say that we don't have an issue with anybody coming to this country.
Well, you have to have an issue because it's not just overall. Like, people like to kind of go immigrants as if it's all one. There's illegal immigrants and there's legal immigrants. Legal immigrants, nobody should have a problem with. They come here, they pay their taxes, they work here. Nobody has a problem with that. Illegal immigrants come with no paperwork. You don't know what their past is, what their history is, whether they're dangerous for the Irish people, whether they're dangerous for Irish children, whether they've committed genocide in their own country. Is what happened with America. They all kind of put immigrants as if it's one thing, as if refugees and migrants, economic migrants and legal immigrants and non-legal immigrants are all one thing. They're very different categories. Like, real refugee is, you know, and they're saying that there's only 8% of actual real refugees in this country. Now, real refugees are people who are being persecuted and in danger in their own. What we took in was young males, not from non-war zones. We took very little women, very little children. The percentage, I think, was like over 80%.
That actually isn't true. Like, I'll say that straight away. That's not true. There's around 70 to 80,000 refugees now housed in Ireland, and we've been taking them in for the last 20 years. Like, my background was I worked for the Irish Army, and I was a soldier, and I worked in the United Nations. So a lot of that rhetoric is based on false information.
Well, no, I actually know a guy who works in the refugee centre, and he has said the majority, over
maybe some of the I was just going to say, maybe some of the new direct provision centres that are taking in refugees from Syria might be that way, but we've had.
So he's even said they're very few, even from Syria. Yeah. There's very little of them. Like, I mean, and he works for it. He's married to an African, so, you know, he's not bullshitting. He's actually said to me, you know, this has gone out of hand.
I know who you're talking about, and the facts and the figures that he says that, you know, I would have to dispute them. You know, because it isn't true. Because as you said yourself, the problem is that the public lumps everybody into one big massive group, and you're just an immigrant.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the immigrant's fault, and it's the immigrant's the reason why the public do that is because they have no control of their own government. Number one. Number two, they have nobody to blame because they can't control their own government. There's nobody else to blame. So generally, what we do as a society is we blame a minority. And
I mean, Glenn, it's not about blaming or who's to blame. The government is to blame. The government is to blame because they're the one bringing them in. Obviously, if you're told you get free, you know, healthcare, you get free houses, you get free this, of course you'll do that. You'll probably not unlikely go back. Why wouldn't you? You know, and I have a lot of African friends, and most of them come here and are working ones that I know. But they would actually even say there's too many. There's too many. That the area there, one of my group of friends come from Botswana, and they say the Botswana government would never allow this. You are allowing far too many Nigerians. And they're criminals. There's a lot of danger here that you're all going to wake up and we're all going to have to leave.
But the problem that we face as a society is that you're right in what you're saying to a point, but there's another point is that there are a lot of good people from all countries in the world coming to this country for a better life. So that says a lot. My biggest issues would be that with all of the policies that the government has on immigration, it has no policy on how to return Irish citizens back to Ireland.
Well, that would be my point. That's all very well, right? If it's controlled and looked after and you are actually genuinely know who you're taking in, you genuinely know the situations, you genuinely know and understand their culture and their country, and you understand the dangers or the benefits of that come. If you're doing it blindly, like the Irish government, and you're not actually taking in any of the above accounts, you really don't even know about any of the guns, you're putting Irish people in danger. And not only that, you're pushing the Irish people back. So I have had my children in schools, and I know there's one in 4 are non-Irish, right? Now, there's a huge percentage of that who don't speak any English. The teacher spends the whole time concentrating on those children who don't speak English.
And again,
why the Irish are being held back.
That's not the fault of
Absolutely, I'm not blaming the fault.
That's the fault of the government. The problem that we face as a country, is that our government has historically been always crisis management. It's never been proactive. It's never tried to solve a problem before the problem came along. It only tries to solve the problem after the problem has started. So you go back to the cancer smear debacle, and again, it's the same thing. Oh, geez, hide that, because if anybody finds out, we're going to be in trouble. You know, and eventually the lies do come out.
Irish government, they get paid an awful lot of money for taking these hotels, like places like this.
But the thing is, it's too simple to say that it's an anti-Irish government. That's too simple. It's a complicated issue. Like, if the government had, set up a system where, a lot of these foreign nationals and refugees, and it's not even the refugees, because they're refugees. There are legitimately 70,000 refugees housed in Ireland, in direct provision centres, which are akin to a concentration camp, because they're not allowed to walk, they're not allowed to go anywhere, they're not allowed to do anything, and they're in there for anywhere up to 2 to 10 years.
But what about the Irish 10,000? And they say it could be anything up to 25,000 who are homeless, living on the street. Some of them living in cars.
It's more closer to about 100,000 because there's hidden homelessness in this country.
So what about them? Because we constantly take in people while the Irish are being ignored. You know what? If we had a government, and I'm not blaming the immigrants, they're promised a new life and they get all these benefits from coming to Ireland. Why wouldn't they? In their own country, they don't get any of the social benefits where they get huge. Of course they'll come to Ireland. But the main thing is that the Irish people are suffering. And not because these people are coming, they're being ignored.
So what we have to do as a people is we have to focus on who the actual enemy is and not blame the minority for it.
No, I'm not saying that. It's nothing to do with...
Yeah, if we change the political structure of this country and the political will of this country, there's enough to go around. And we have. In fact,
I would take all white South Africans in. The reason being is white South Africa is being ignored. There's an actual genocide where the government is things kill the Boer, and they would easily fit in here. There's no problem integrating. It's pretty much the same culture. And they're hard workers, and they will add to this country. But I think instead, but the government, because it's racist against whites and Irish, and I really do believe this government is, I know white South Africans who have tried to come into this country cannot get in, where I know black South Africans have no problem coming in here.
and will get anything. In fact, they're more than welcoming, where white South Africans cannot claim, and they're the only ones who are being killed. The same as a lot of, Islamic countries. They're taking in a lot of Islamic people, where who's being killed is the Christians in those Islamic countries. And they've got to scream out to get them out of the country, because they don't like the facts. They like to put them all in one box. Yeah. You have to surrogate them to actually be fair. What that is not fair, because the people who are really needing help are being left in those countries. And the ones who are doing the danger are being put into Europe. And that is why we see Europe in a mess at the moment.
Look, we could talk rings around it all day long about all the issues in all the countries and all over the world. And we probably agree on some of it and disagree on other things. But at the end of the day, every country has to focus on its own issues. And that's why the LFS movement is spreading to all of these countries. It's in America now, it's in Canada, it's huge in Canada, it's in Australia, it's in New Zealand, France, Germany, Denmark, and especially, it's obviously in France, everyone knows it's France, and England as well. And the reason why is because governments around the world have had no checks or balances. They've been able to do whatever they want at will, and we've seen war, famine, and pestilence on global scales affect whole groups of people, and all of these people migrate. We've just experienced one of the harshest downturns in the history of this country, and we've had 700,000 people in that period emigrate from this country. They are economic refugees, just the same as the ones that are coming from the Middle East or coming from Central Europe or wherever they're coming.
The only difference is the Irish cannot claim benefits in America. They may have to leave, same in Australia. You can't go over there and say, I'd like a house, I'd like a car, I'd like some money for food, I'd like my children. You can't do that. If you go over there as an immigrant, as you said, you must work.
Yeah, but we can't compare apples with oranges, because generally the people that leave this country are the highly educated.
Absolutely.
And they fall into jobs that are well paid, with a good lifestyle.
Absolutely. But they don't get it for free now.
The difference is that some of the people that are coming to this country, aren't highly educated.
No, they're not even speak English.
They're coming from war-torn countries that have been at war for decades. And
not all of them are war-torn. They may be very poor parts of North Africa and stuff, but no, they're not. Like, a lot of them aren't actually from war to, and I disagree with that.
That's all well and good. A country may not be at war, but it's still impoverished. Like, just take our own country, for example. In 2014, we had 16.5% poverty in Ireland. That's risen to 2016 to 25%. And you can be damn sure that it's risen higher than that up to 2018.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the problem is the resources, and because of the lack of resources, or the lack of managing those resources, is the key point here. The fact that these resources are not being managed, and there's so much wastage. If we take the HSE, for example, there's 2,500 staff in the HSE getting paid €4.5 billion per annum. That's 25% of the entire HSE budget. And then the Minister Harris will come out and he will say that 700,000 people on waiting lists and 106,000 people on trolleys in 2008 is turning the corner. That's not turning the corner, that's spin. And it's a blatant lie. And people are not dumb anymore. People are not stupid, and then people are listening, and people are waking up to the fact that the government is constantly lying. But what people are afraid of is the main thing is, how do you change the system? And that's where citizens-initiated referendum comes in. Because what that allows the citizen to do, it allows the citizen to keep the government in checks and balances. So whatever government is in there goes in on a mandate. We all vote for a mandate. We vote for a party. We vote for because this guy is going to do this for the health, or this guy is going to do this for the roads. So we give them a mandate. The minute they get elected, that's it. They're gone. You never see them again. They've been the mandate. But what a citizens-initiated referendum supplies to the people is the power to hold that mandate over the head of that politician. And if he refuses to do what he's been given a mandate for, then he's fired. He gets taken out. But I just got, not to get sidetracked for too long, I'll go on to the next one.
Okay.
It's the number 5, the full constitutional protection from privatisation of Irish water.
Yeah.
From the establishment. Because generally the establishment are the one that profit off the misery. So a lot of people would say, well, we already have that. Yeah, we do already have that, but Irish Water is still sending out a bill. The bill may say 0 for the moment, but in a year or two, when the next lot of cronies get in, and whoever they elect as their puppet master, will bring in water charges. And there are no illusions that will happen.
Maybe that's something about it. Because the EU wants it. Huge amount of problems is because we only have EU puppets, whether they're Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, no matter what T-shirt they wear, they're absolutely EU puppets. And they're not interested in, sure, that's what the EU said is the problem with all this is that countries won't give up their sovereignty. And that's what they want. They want to run Europe as one. And with that, the water comes in. Because everybody in Europe has to do it. So they want a uniform for everything, whether it's the army, PESCO, whether it's carbon tax, whatever it is, they want to, because that's where the buck stops. And once the Irish, and that is why the government is destroying the country, because it's not really a government. It's not a government for the Irish people. It's a government for the EU. And the EU, people think as Europe. It's not Europe. EU is like a company. It's a government without a country. Because, there's plenty
It's a company that needs more profit.
Yeah. So it keeps taking and taking. And that's all it is. It's not Europe. Europe is a continent.
So the last tax that they can really tax people is the air they breathe. And that's what the carbon tax is.
Yeah.
The water is a water charge. It's nothing more than a tax.
Yeah.
And people have already paid that tax. Now they're going to have to pay that tax again. So it's just a matter of making life more expensive and more difficult. But we'll move on. We'll move on to number 6. So medical cannabis is to be legalized immediately.
Cannabis? Why? For cancer?
Medical cannabis.
Medical. So that's taking out the hallucinogenic out of it, I presume.
Yeah. There's oils that you can get that have the...
But you can buy them already. You can buy them in chemistry.
No, you can't. You can get a prescription, but I think that you have to get a license for the prescription, and it's quite limited, and most people get refused.
I bought it in the health store, Bray. It's like a little oil. In fact, there's a farm up in Wicklow.
But that's not legally. You're not buying that legally.
Oh, okay. Well, I put it in the chemist. I think it was chemist anyway.
Yeah, but you may not be buying it legally.
Oh, okay.
Right? But here's the thing. You go into your doctor, and most GPs in this country will hand out a prescription, like a pack of Smarties. And if you're going in with a complaint of any type of pain, whether it be, a sore leg or fibromyalgia, you'll be given a codeine or some form of, an addictive painkiller. And we have huge amounts of people in this country who are addicted to painkillers and reliant on painkillers and codeines and morphines and all sorts of stuff. But medical cannabis isn't addictive. And it is the research and the evidence is quite clear that it is more helpful than it isn't.
Absolutely. Well, it's a plant. Once you take the hallucinogenic out of it, it's a plant. It should be sold as a plant, which it is. It's just a plant.
Well, the plant itself has huge benefits for if you want to make paper, if you want to make rope, if you want to make clothes, if you want to make textiles. So there's huge applications for the plant in its own right. But they ban the plant, period, because because they're afraid we're all going on stone. Might do us power of good if we all did, but anyway. I'll move on to the next one now. Well, number 7 is a complete ban on TDs from being housing landlords, TDs, chopped oils, from being housing landlords and beneficiaries.
Ban on TDs?
TDs.
Oh, TDs. I was like, TDs.
No,
okay.
TDs.
Okay, TDs.
So,
okay.
you know, public representatives, elected public representatives, being landlords and beneficiaries of said landlords. Because a lot of the TDs that are in power there at the moment are actually beneficiaries of landlords, and as you can see, that there's a massive land grab going on at the moment, and they're the ones that are coming in and buying up all the land with their voucher funds. So, number 8
gets us back to the first thing. And who are they packing them out with? Yeah. Definitely not Irish people.
Yeah, so, well, okay. So, the 8th one then would be the return of Ireland's oil, gas, and fisheries to public ownership.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, you know, we've billions and billions of euros being taken away from this country every year to make other countries wealthier and have their, you know, zero unemployment.
Can't be done because unless Ireland leaves the EU, we had a government or we had a thing to say. Because most of that is actually, what you're talking about is not even in the Irish government hand because it's a fake government. And not only is it a fake government, they're just puppets. They have to do what the EU says. There's no even point with having a government, really. They're just showpieces. They're like mannequins. It's to show, you know, oh, look, you're still a sovereign, independent country. Have a look at those, you see. But it's actually not. We're actually run as a union, and the union is the EU. And the EU dictates a lot of what you say. So the only way you can do it is to take it to the EU.
Ireland is less than 1% than the total population of the EU.
Absolutely.
And in democracy,
that's why we don't get a voice. I can care less.
Well, in democracy, 99, you know, the majority rules. So 99% of the EU decides to do whatever they want to do with the farm that's over there on the edge of the Atlantic Ocean. It'll be done regardless of whether we like it or not.
Absolutely. But that's why we said no to the Lisbon Treaty. And that's why, and the Nice, and that's what they were supposed to have changed for us under that so-called Dublin Agreement.
They didn't, and they made us vote for it again.
And they gave us this bullshit Dublin Agreement, which was part of that, because we said no because of one of the reasons.
We didn't want the paper it's written on. Once it comes into effect in 2020, it's not worth the paper it's written on. Well, anyway, number 9 then is an effective and immediate means to remove corrupt Gardaí, civil servants, and the judiciary.
Absolutely.
So that goes back to the beginning of the conversation when we were talking about Ben but we've seen the corruption with Jerry McCabe in the Garda Síochána, and not just Jerry McCabe, but dozens and dozens. Today there was a case on down in Cork where a woman who had been raped and sexually abused as a child in the custody of the child welfare system.
That's a second criminal.
Tulsa, yeah, but it wasn't called Tulsa then. It's called Tulsa now, but it wasn't then. How it was covered up, and today's case down in Cork, I'm not going to speak much about the case, but today's case down in Cork was how politicians were trying to get a gagging order on her so that she couldn't talk about it anymore.
Jesus.
You know, so that's how corrupt the system is, and she was trying to expose a paedophile ring within the higher echelons of Tulsa and other departments. But I'll move swiftly on from that because I think everyone will agree with it. An immediate distribution of food and fuel vouchers for the cold and hungry.
Okay, how would that work? How does it
work? We had the butter vouchers. Everybody remembers the butter and the beef vouchers. Yeah. So we all seem to have forgotten that was what we used to do. Here's the thing: systemic poverty. What systemic poverty means is that the average person in this country needs €260 to survive each week. And the state only pays €200 if you're on welfare, for example. So immediately you're already in systemic poverty by €60 a week. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, people on welfare go out drinking and do this and do that.
No.
That's anecdotal.
Yeah,
because the majority of people don't do that.
And even if they do, you know what? Like, people begrudging people for stupid things. It's like, you know, for extra €5 in their dough.
Whether a person wants to drink his €200 a week or eat his €200 a week, that's his choice.
Yeah.
You know?
Although I do think only if, say, a married man and he drinks his money and he has wife and children, I think that it should be looked at. Not his money, his own individual money, but like that it should be broken down. That, you know, or else the wife being the alcoholic or whoever. You know.
But and making that point, you have to. I have to just go back to the poverty line. So the poverty line is €260 per person. The state only pays €30 per child per week, not €200 per child per week.
Yeah.
So if you're a single mother, or if you're, divorced wife, or if you're a single man with children, you will get your €198 or whatever it is, and you will get your 30-something euros then on top of that per child. You don't get €200 for everybody in the household.
No. I'm not, like, I've been, like, on my own, so I do know, like, that is tough. Now, I was in a position I was working, and, you know, but... Like,
I'm a single father of 4.
It's tough. So, like, it is tough. There's no, like, you know, so I don't begrudge any single parent at all any money, because, you know, it is tough. It's really bloody tough.
It goes back to the poverty trap. And a lot of people who are working and, you know, bringing up, they're in good jobs, they're getting paid decent, their husband might work or their wife might work, and they've been able to get along. The problem is when you're a single parent, the problem is you have other problems that you can't get along with, or you may not have the family support there to help you get along with issues that arise from children going to school or children being sick. And employers, you know, and all credit to what they've done maybe in the last 20 years, generally, you know, will sort of stay away from it because it's going to be a little bit hardship. It might interfere with the job. You know, and that's just been a single mother. God help you if you're disabled, you know, because apparently there's no inequality anymore in this country. But yet, when you apply for a job when you're disabled, I guarantee you your CV goes in the bin the minute you go out the door. And I'm just taking my own personal view on that, of being disabled. Then the next one then would be, number 11 then would be a cap on rents of up to €400 a month per room.
Per room.
Per room. So that, you know, €400 would be the max, and you would obviously come down for it. We don't always have to drive at the speed limit. But €400 would be the max if you're in trouble.
Well, it depends, because some rooms are more like apartments. Some rooms are like
but you know, they would
can't really kind of, and then some boxes would be in, you know, in a very dangerous area.
What we're talking about here is for family homes. So if you were renting a family home in Dublin, a 4-bedroom house would cost you €1,600 a month, and not €25,000 a month. I'm just being flip, but at the moment you could pay in excess of €2,500 a month for a 4-bedroom house. So,
yeah. But I mean, that's a bit difficult because, you know, you can really, you know.
Well, you have to scale it across country then, you see. You'll obviously have to scale that. But it's just simple to cap the rents nationwide so that, you know, people are not being, you know, pushed out into homelessness because of the rising cost.
You know what, I actually have thought about this before, because a lot of people who do rent out their homes and whatever, now these are the people not renting out particularly property, but their own homes, like renting out rooms and whatever, are usually not in great situations themselves. And a lot of those rooms are in bits, to be honest with you. I've seen a few of them. They're absolutely like enormous mushrooms growing up in them. What there should be is, and those people are doing it because obviously nobody would rent out a room unless they're in a very difficult situation themselves. They're not going to, you know, nobody wants to rent a room in their home. So what it should be is actually government grants to actually help them get that house in order or that room in order. And then they pay it back over amount of time, but that it should be regulated so that room is.
The problem is then you we all know when the government touches something, it's broke. You know, it becomes broke very quickly. And what you're saying there, it may be a really good idea, but the fact that most of government ministers and people that are up there in the high echelons of the 1% are landlords, and they will be the only ones that will benefit by it. And just like any other scheme that they bring in, immediately what you would have is that the landlords would profiteer off it and say, well, if you're going to get €1,000 off the government, so I'm going to charge you €2,000. But the room was originally only €1,000. Yeah, but that's just the way it is.
I suppose it's different from people who live in their home, or people who are actually just renting, you know, it out for you know, because it have to be on a different. Because I know a few single mothers who even, of course, suggested that, because that's their only way of getting income, especially if they're small children. To be able to rent out rooms, and the courts have suggested that for survive, basically, because they can't work because their children are too small. And the courts have actually suggested, like, you know, because there's no other way of making money is to, you know, rent out rooms. But some of the rooms now I've seen are in bits, and some of them are great.
Yeah, and each time it presents new problems. So that is something that has to be really, really looked into, and you know, and proper legislation has to be brought in to protect the family, not just the home, but the family in the home.
Yeah.
Because you know, sometimes additional people living in your home, whether it be a renter or a relative, wouldn't be conducive to a good, healthy, stable environment for a child.
Absolutely.
But so. Anyway, we'll move on, because we could be talking about that all night as well. Yeah. 12 would be the abolishment of the TV license.
Yeah, well, I hate bloody propaganda TV. I don't know why anybody...
Oh, there you go. So, you turn on the RT News tonight, and I guarantee you they've lied about a dozen things that there's are reporting on. Just like some of the newspapers as well.
All the news. They're all on Dennis and Brian. Why bother listening to anything? Yeah. He's the same opinion as all.
Apparently today, the Yellow Vest movement was in the Independent today that we made a threat to target 5 female politicians to have them evicted from their homes, which is absolute utter nonsense. You know,
they've got so bad. But you know, I always knew media like embellished and, you know, maybe added a few colours to the story, or you know, but I never knew that they blatantly lied. And I was talking to this woman in the UK. Her son was murdered.
Yeah.
And she literally afterwards, because they didn't want to say it was a terrorist attack, her and 3 other boys were murdered. They were killed by an Islamic, got up on like a pavement and ran them over when they were coming out of a nightclub. And the papers went on to say it was a drunk driver, because they didn't want to admit that it was another Islamic attack. So she, obviously, to try and get justice for her son, has run this campaign around the UK and found she's not the only one, and that the British media and the British government are kind of lying. And even when she tried to bring it up in court, she was called a racist, all these names to try and shut her up. And she's still, I actually interviewed her on this program, amazing, strong woman. But it just shows you I was even so naive, and I'm more awake than most people, because I do talk to a lot of people, but I never knew that they actually blatantly lie. And they even had her where they cut her on the TV, where she had like cut out and saying, oh, you know, and her main thing is to do with drunk driving, that there should be more regulation on drunk driving. And I was saying to her, but you know, they actually said that this was, you know, quoted by you. And she said, no, that was never my quote.
It was RTE did that with Noel Edmonds last week, you know.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. They cut him out, but they didn't. They cut
all his reference out to the banks. Yeah, because they don't want to rock the boat, you know, because the banks are telling them what to do. But yeah, that's horrific. That's horrendous. And I really feel sorry for that lady. And
she was unbelievable. So strong, but you know she's going to court, but all the police and everything are against her.
Yeah, So you look at online, like if you take Facebook or if you take Twitter and all of these various different media platforms, they're brutal. They're absolutely brutal. I don't mean they're brutal in the sense that they're crap. I mean they're brutal as in some of the comments that people make on it are so unfiltered. Like if you were to say that in public, you could have somebody arrested and charged with malicious intent or whatever. But some of the things they say on Facebook and get away with it as well is shocking.
Oh, well, I think they do it on purpose. It's kind of like they're shocking. But I do think, that people should be allowed to say, what they want to do. I think this idea of hate speech is ridiculous.
Personally, what I believe is people, obviously people are brought up better than that. Absolutely. And these people that do these shock and awe tactics online and they write in their little comments and they accuse people of baseless accusations and, all of this nonsense, absolute nonsense. Have their own agendas, whether they're whether they're paid trolls or
there is paid trolls. Leo has admitted that he's put on trolls. He's actually admitted that, which I think is quite bizarre.
I know there's a company registered in Dublin. It's an NGO in Dublin. It's part funded by the Irish government and it's part funded by the EU. And I know the guy that owns it, and I know I know at least a dozen people that work for him. And they do a pretty nasty campaign pretending to be these, enlightened liberals online attacking people with 6 and 7 different accounts. So, Leo's admitted that, and we know who they are, for sure. That is what it is. But I'll move on from propaganda TV and abolishing the TV license, which funds them, to the 13, which is the immediate implementation of full corporate tax rates on multinationals and the collective revenues that are owed.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes.
What about Apple? What would you do about Apple? The way we were supposed to have got that money, but obviously it all went to the bloody EU.
But that's sitting in an escrow account, so that's our money. We just haven't accepted it yet. But at the end of the day,
the EU,
even if Apple was paying 13%, but even if Apple was paying 13% corporation tax on it, that's just only on its global profits. This isn't on its profits that it makes in Ireland because it pays tax on those. It might be a very minuscule amount of tax, but this is on its global profits. So the money that it makes in Japan and the money that it makes in every other country in the world, which flows through Ireland.
But sure, it's not going to make any difference to the Irish, unfortunately. That's all going to go to the EU. Well, it's the EU who are insisting we take it, and it's the EU who insist we hand it over to them. So really, we're just, biting off our nose. We tackle American companies, which are taking very little Irish people, which is absolutely a disgrace. The Irish government agreed with these big, huge Google and all these companies which take a very small percentage of the indigenous population, which every other country takes these big corporations. There is a quota of the indigenous population in each country you must take in. That's not happening in Ireland. So they're taking in many people who aren't Irish, which is very unfair.
Yeah, but these global companies...
Then all the money that they're taking in is going to...
Well, this will annoy you even more then. These global companies that are registered in Ireland don't employ anybody in Ireland.
Yes, which is actually shocking.
It's just an empty space with a computer sitting on a desk.
Google and stuff like that, they are employing people.
Yeah, so this $6 to $8 trillion that flows to Ireland every year doesn't employ anybody. It's just a facility to wash money.
Yeah.
So it's like a big money laundering scheme, And the only people benefiting by that is the 1% because apparently all of their money.
But the thing is, if we get it back, right, we spend our time arguing and get the government. Look, if the government, which they're not do that anyway, but if they did, right, and they argued that all money goes to the EU, we benefit.
It doesn't matter. We're not benefiting by it. It doesn't matter where it goes. If we're not benefiting by it anymore.
They move on to wherever, which we don't benefit anyway. Yeah, either way,
but we're not benefiting either way. So, what's the difference? We just have
to give the EU money. We'd be better off not giving the EU money.
All it will do is this: there'll be a drop in our GDP, because that's all it's for, is to show the world how great our GDP is. But our GDP is false. There's there's 2,500 registered companies in Ireland and more of companies running global profits through Ireland to no benefit to the taxpayer or any employees. Now,
sure, all you have to see the real colour of Ireland one day in Dublin. Walk around Dublin and see the amount of homeless women, homeless people.
People step over homeless in Dublin.
Like, even my friends from Africa thought they were coming to this wealthy country, and they were from a wealthy country. They're from Botswana. They've never seen homeless until they arrived to Ireland. They have never, because in their country it doesn't exist. In Botswana, everyone's looked after, everyone's fed. They've never seen the poverty. They were actually quite shocked. And that's how bad it is, because, you know, they were told that they were going to this Western country, it'd be wealthy, it'd be this. They were like, it's poor than that.
We are the 8th wealthiest nation in the world.
Which is quite crazy. You know, you go walk into Dublin and you go, is this real? What the hell?
And then you walk around, but it's not just walking around Dublin anymore. It's walking around every town in the country. It's walking around all the rest of the cities in the country.
Yeah.
And you have the same epidemic of homeless people and hidden homeless people and hidden unemployment and all of this, of the 8th wealthiest country in the world.
Yeah,
you know, if we're the 8th wealthiest country in the world, we should have the highest tax intake in the world. And everybody should be walking around with a wad of cash the size of a truck in their pocket.
There shouldn't be all this second people dying for cervical cancer, women dying. And
it's not just people dying of cervical cancer and various different diseases.
No,
we have suicides in this country that are a horrible proportion.
Absolutely. You know? The highest in Europe. And women have actually, for the first time, caught up with men in Dublin. And that is mainly from financial stress.
Absolutely. The loss of hope, you know. Being told every time you open up a paper or turn on the news that everything is grand and everything is rosy, and then you're looking in the cupboards and there's not in the cupboards for the last 2 weeks. You know, it doesn't stack up.
No.
You know, like there isn't a rising population living in systemic poverty for no reason.
Absolutely.
And that's a fact. You know, if it was so rosy and so brilliant, then why is the percentage in poverty rates rising? And you know, and with poverty then comes all the other issues between addiction, between homelessness, you know, ill health, and all of the other things that then put pressure on the services that are being provided. And at the same time, all of these services are being stripped of their funding, stripped of their staff. You think the nurses are going out on strike tomorrow because they want restoration of their pay, and people are saying, no, don't give the nurses their pay. Well, let's give the nurses their pay.
Absolutely.
Half the nurses in this country live abroad. They have to leave this country to get jobs in other countries. And again, the state has no policy whatsoever to bring these people home. You know, I can't come home because my insurance is going to be $3,000 a year. I can't come home because I can't rent a house for less than €2,000 a month. You know, my wages won't pay that. You know, so you know.
Yes, you know what? And I know you don't like this, but it's hilarious that the Irish are stuck and it's forced immigration. Well, we're taking in immigration from all other countries, and they're not immigration. They're all
bringing our own people home.
Yeah, instead of concentrating and kind of going, what do we need? Well, we have all these teachers. We have all these doctors all over the world.
Yeah.
So why can't we concentrate on bringing them home and bringing the indigenous Irish back? This is their land. This is their home. And everything, they have nowhere else to go.
Like, apparently, according to the government, they don't want to come home to Ireland. You know, every immigrant I've ever spoken to from Ireland that's living abroad wants to come home to their family. The Christmas time in this country is the most horrendous time for any immigrant, when they have to, you know, a couple of days after Christmas, they have to jump back onto a plane and fly off for Hiliana and you know, and be broken hearted for another week or two until they get back into the swing of things.
Sure, according to the government, the Irish like being homeless, that they refuse homes all the time.
Yeah. But then, it's not called Leo the Liar for nothing, you know?
Yeah.
So then, where were we? So that was 13. 14 is emergency legislation correlating the wages to the high cost of living. Well, that's a very simple thing. We pay, nearly 60 cents in every euro that we earn as a people in taxes.
Yeah.
In taxes, in levies, in hidden taxes, and hidden levies, and so on and so forth. And half the time we shouldn't be paying any of it, Like, using examples like, take Bord-na-Mona. Bord-na-Mona is a triangle owned by the state. It harvests resources that are owned by the state, which is the people, right? It charges a tax to the company that produces the electricity, which is another state organisation, who then charges the tax to 3 other companies who are also state organisations, who charges the tax to the people for their resources.
Okay, that makes sense.
So you wipe
with
out
all these you have, do you have somebody in mind who's going to run for government, or who's going to be able?
No, we're not a political party. We're not a political party. We're an organisation.
Suggesting to do this, because obviously Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, they're all criminal. As far as I'm concerned, we only have criminals in government. So, what would you suggest? Who would you suggest? Where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here? Okay.
We need a new government, and we need one quickly, because the criminals are running us into the ground, and nobody's stopping anything.
Well, what I would say is this, that maybe going forward, now, the Yellow Vest movement in Ireland is 7 weeks old.
Yeah.
We have 20,000 supporters.
Fantastic.
In 7 weeks. Okay? So that's in 7 weeks. Who knows where we'll be in 6 months? Okay? And as you said yourself there a little while ago, the cream will always rise to the top. And people who are leaders in their own right, who know who can see the injustice in this country.
Absolutely. I think most people can, unless they're dead.
Yeah. And look at some of these people are affiliated to Sinn Féin. Some of them are affiliated to Fine Gael. Some of them are affiliated to Sinn Féin, people before profit, whoever they're affiliated to. They know what's going on, and they just can't wrap their heads around it just yet. What we're asking people to do is we're asking for the mandate, one thing, citizens-initiated referendum. It solves a lot of problems,
Absolutely. We had Leo out yesterday for the amount of damage. Cannot stand him, cannot stand any of this bloody government. I can't see it.
Look, I don't know the man personally, and I wouldn't comment on him personally. All I know is that every time he opens his mouth, something contradictory comes out of it.
I don't know, Mike. I don't think
as a normal citizen, a single dad of 4, trying to get by. I serve my country, and every time he opens his mouth, you just can't hang your coat on it. And it's not. It isn't just him. He's the worst culprit, and he's just happens to be the key shot.
Simon Covey, who goes to the Bilderberg meetings, absolutely bloody disgrace.
I said a couple of weeks ago outside a house, there were 3 people had just been recently evicted and then had their homes taken back by concerned citizens. And then the government tried to criminalise them, tried to make them look like criminals, and that it was justified that this reactionary British-style eviction force in Northern Ireland would come down to the south of this country based on our history, and think it was perfectly acceptable.
So planned. That was absolutely a plan to actually get the Northern Irish and the Irish at each other's throats again. That was a complete plan.
And it didn't work.
It didn't work because I interviewed an Ulster man who was one of the heads in the Orange Order, and he absolutely said, if you ever need anybody from Ulster to come down, this is not what we stand for. This is absolutely shocking.
And I commended that man for his bravery and for coming out and saying that, because in a time where we have a border issue coming up and we don't know whether we're going to have a hard border or a soft border or whether it's going to be a hard-boiled border or whatever.
It's a hard border because the EU are doing it to spite the English, because the English won't change their mind. Or the British, sorry, not the English. And it's just bullying tactics, and we are being used as pawns. But because we only have puppets in the door, who have no interest in really our economy or what happened. I mean, if they really did, they wouldn't have allowed any of this bullshit to be from the start. They would have said, "Look, England, we need your trade. Britain, we need your trade. Let's do a deal together as two countries." You know, whether Ireland stayed in or out of the EU, it should have been done as a separate. But because Ireland was in the EU, they refused to actually, they just thought it would never happen. Then when it happened, oh, they're fools, they're going to lose so much money, we're going to be thrown away. The same, they just didn't deal with it. They just came out bullshit after bullshit.
In fairness, you have to remember that the British establishment and those that are in power in Britain have utter contempt for the Irish establishment. Regardless of what our history is, they still have that utter contempt, and you saw that in all the various news articles. That while Britain has voted to leave the EU, the man on the street in England, because of the establishment in England, blames the Irish for that. They voted on it, but they blame us for it.
I don't think that's true. To be honest, I've interviewed a lot on both sides, and I know a lot of English people. I don't think that's true. I think the British think very differently from the Irish. The British are very, very straight down the line. They're very by the rules. The British people voted for this. This is what they want. They're not stupid. They know exactly what they wanted. They want out of the EU. And even the ones who didn't vote for it, the British are very by the rule book. They're not like the Irish. They don't bend and whatever. So even the ones who didn't believe that democracy has to happen for that country to continue, that you can't go against it. This is what they voted for. And after the people vote, they know that the people voted the first time. It wasn't second animals who voted the first time. This is what they voted for. This is what they want. They want their independence. And they can't understand. And as for the Irish and their bullshit media, it's just bullshit media. The British don't, right? The British tend to see Irish. But people like this in Ireland or not. That's very much British. They don't really see them as a different race, whether the Irish like that or not. They see them as pretty much the same race. They see them as Scottish or Welsh. That's how the British see them.
What was that British elected official there recently said that we should starve the Irish out?
Who said that?
A female, I can't remember her name, a female politician said that,
I didn't
because of our negotiations weren't going well with the UK, that they should starve us out. And again,
I'd be interested to see whether she was a leftist or because
it doesn't really matter. It just goes to show you their ignorance when it comes to the history of their nearest neighbour.
Yeah, I don't know.
They did orchestrate a famine in this country.
Absolutely, but that is their history. That was their history, and it wasn't again the people themselves. It was their government. You can't blame the whole people.
I'm not blaming the people. No, don't get me wrong. No. I'm not blaming the people.
That was their government, and absolutely, it wasn't really a famine. It was a genocide. There was
the British establishment. The British establishment still has that utter contempt towards the Irish.
I don't think you're right. I actually don't, because I know a lot of British people. I think majority, in fact,
no, I'm not talking about British people. I didn't say British people. I said the establishment.
Yeah, even that, I think most of them pretty much have very much that the Irish are British. They actually don't see them as a different culture.
I would agree that our cultures are so intertwined that we're nearly the identities of the same people.
I think
we all come from the Celts. We all come from the Celt, the Viking, or the Saxon. It's one of the three. And regardless if that offends people, that's a fact. Historically, that's a fact.
I think the British feel, from what that the Irish should leave too. And I know a lot of Irish think, oh, how big of them or whatever. But I think they don't just think of it for the sake of it. They think of it because they think Ireland fought for 800 years for independence to get free from us. Now they're in another union. They have no control over that. And if they only joined in 1975 to trade with the British, and that's true. And we only got into the EU on piggyback from the British. that the only reason, like the majority of trade we're doing is with the British. We do a bit with Brussels to do with medical care or tablets, but majority of our, particularly agriculture and all that, is with the British. Now the British know when they leave, we are fucked. So does the EU. This is why the EU thinks that they will use us and are using us as a thorn in the British side to put in a hard border. Now, the British had never intended to put that hard border in. It was always going to be the EU, and they will put the EU army to antagonise the British. But the British aren't going to go, you know what, that's great, we'll change our mind now, you're going to put in a hard border, you're going to antagonise it. They don't do that. People know they've been through 2 world wars. You antagonise the British, they'll keep going harder at it. They don't turn around and go, you know what, sorry about that, lads, we've changed our mind, everybody else, happy days. They're not going to do that. You can't blackmail them or, start pushing them into...
And yet, at the same time, I agree with your premise up to the point is you can't blackmail them, but yet they are.
Blackmailing. Well, that's what the Irish government is doing, but you can't. They literally they'll continue on. The British will leave without any deal with the EU. And it'll be a very messy thing, but that is where we're heading. Because the EU are being very unfair to the British. And they are being very unfair to the British. And they're using us as
30,000 EU border force will be on Irish soil.
Yes, the EU. Remember who it is. It's not the British.
The Taoiseach said that during the week. He said that the army will be sent to the border.
Yeah.
And when the Taoiseach's office was asked to clarify it, they said, well, it won't be the Irish army.
No, it'll be the EU. Of course it'll be the EU. It'll be PESCO. The thing that Leo signed into without even asking the Irish people, did you want to be in a bloody...
And this is one of the reasons why a lot of people would label the Yellow Vest movement, which isn't right and isn't left, but would label us they're labeling us alt-right, is because we brought up the question as that he signed these agreements without bringing them to a referendum.
Absolutely, well, it should have been. That was one of the main things. Being a neutral country, we were very proud of that. Didn't get involved in bullshit.
But for asking that question, the Yellow Vest movement in Ireland has been accused of being racist. For asking that question, why do we not have a referendum?
It's insane. Everything that is considered right is racist. Now, let's get right used to be called conservative. And conservative views are not racist. In fact, it's the left who are racist.
But this was said to me the other day, and it made an awful lot of sense to me. I don't know, maybe it might make sense to your listeners. But the left is so alt-left at the moment that even the most liberal of people are considered alt-right.
Absolutely. Like, I would consider myself alt-right. I do have conservative values. But they're like conservative values. And what is now is called right. And most people, when they're calling you alt-right or they don't even know what that means. That is where they used to sit in the British Parliament.
It's got to the point, you saw there, just before Christmas last year, I don't know whether you saw it yourself, but they were they were saying things like, if you like white milk, you're
racist. Yeah. It's got to a point where it's a joke now. Yeah.
If the most recent one I saw, the most abhorrent one I saw recently was that the paedophiles want to be recognised as part of the LGBT movement.
And that's what happened because all this far left is involved in all this.
I don't get into that stuff because my head's melted enough with just trying to deal with the issues in Ireland between homelessness and poverty and illness and sickness and death and suicides, and that all of that stuff is just noise. And the people of Ireland need to figure out which noise to be listening to, because you and I and everybody else could sit and we can talk about the border, and we can talk about the EU, and we can talk about all of these things that are wrong with the global conspiracy that's going on. But it isn't feeding anybody. No. It's not putting a roof over anyone's head.
No.
It's not taking anybody out of poverty. It's not educating a child with a full belly. It's not allowing that child to go to bed in a secure knowledge that they're going to wake up without some man standing in the doorway with a key card in the morning telling them to get out and walk the streets. These are the problems that are facing us as a people right now, this minute. And the Yellow Vest movement isn't left. It isn't right. It's people putting on a yellow vest to unite against a common enemy who wants us all pitted against each other, fighting for the scraps and picking on the bones of what was the Celtic Tiger, and we all need to wake up for that. We could talk all day and night about this legislation and that legislation. The problem that we face as a people is that our government, and whether it's this government, the last government, the government that's going to come ahead of us, is not accountable to the people. No. They do not listen to the people. No. We've had decades of people protesting outside Dáil, and nobody is listening to them. So what we're asking people to do is put on your yellow jacket, unite with the people of Ireland.
And where do they get the yellow jacket from?
Put aside the differences for one afternoon.
Absolutely.
For one day of the week.
This Saturday, I think everybody should go. When they sign up, do they get the yellow jacket in there?
No, you go down to your local pound shop and buy a yellow jacket.
Okay, so everybody should get down and buy a few and try and get people in there this Saturday. So where is it this Saturday?
So it's in right now this minute it's in 15 different locations in Ireland.
Okay.
You can if it's not in your vicinity, then you can start it. Simple as.
Well done. Yeah, that's a good idea.
You don't need anyone's permission to do it. There are no leaders in the movement. And remember that that's very important. There's absolutely no leaders in this movement. If you find that you join a movement and there's some ego at the top of it saying you must do this, you must do that, well then that's not the right movement. What we're asking people to do is get out and protest against what every single thing that everybody agrees on that's wrong in this country. Stop standing around the car trying to figure out who's better at putting on the wheel, and just let's get the wheel back on the car.
Absolutely, that's very good point. So where in Dublin is it?
So in Dublin, it's in the Garden of Remembrance at 2:00 on Saturday.
Okay. Everybody try and get out.
Yeah, and
it's moving. I do think that it should. But do you see in France that they're shooting them?
Yeah, it's horrendous. It's horrendous. And just so people know that France, the flashpoint of what's happening in Paris is not the movement. That's just a flashpoint. That's the anger and the frustration of the people not being listened to. And people have said to me in the last, over the last couple of weeks, that Macron is capitulating. He is not capitulating. You do not see riots in the streets and people being shot and beaten to a pulp by the EU police force, by the way, the border force that's in Paris. That's who's doing all the mangling and the mayhem. It's these are the same guys that are going to be on the border of this country.
Absolutely.
Right? These are not French police, So if you look at any of the footage, check the back of their helmets. You will see red and you will see blue, a strip on the back of the helmet, and you can make your own mind up. Go online, look at the videos. Go online, look at YouTube, because mainstream media is not telling you the truth.
Yeah.
No, the Yellow Vest movement is not just in Paris.
No,
it's in
Canada,
40 other countries on the global scale, and every single person involved in the movement has one common goal: citizens-initiated referendum.
Fantastic. So, do you have any more on your list, or is that it? I think
there's a few more there. There's a few more there that everyone will agree with, getting rid of the property tax. But, at the end of the day, it isn't about any of that stuff. If we got citizens-initiated referendum, the people can decide themselves. The people decide what they want to vote on. The people decide on how they want to vote to be voted on. And their elected representatives have to listen to them.
Yeah.
So all of this party pump politics, parish pump politics, and all this nonsense that has been going on for the last 80, 90 years in this country, where people are just getting wealthier and land grabs just keep going on.
Yeah.
You know, all of that is put aside, and these people are then held accountable. Like, we have an elected official who was convicted of tax evasion and fraud and various other things, who was re-elected. You know, and at this stage it's a joke, and we're so numb to it all that we're no longer outraged. But here's the fact. This is the fact, sir. The Irish people need to realise that they're at war. Their government is currently at war with them.
Yeah.
20,000 people have died in the last 11 years due to the ill and stupid policies that the government consistently roll out. The policies that are not in the best interest of the people of this country.
No.
Every single person in this country has been touched by suicide. Every single person in this country has been touched by poverty. Every single person in this country will in the future be touched by both, if not more. Between lying on a trolley in some hallway. It might be, you know, just, you know, when you see a 6-year-old child crying in a hotel bedroom, asking her mother why Sandy didn't bring her home.
Yeah. No, I even, a friend of mine,
these people are not numbers.
To so many people, and people think, oh, it's only, you know, the really, you know, the working class. It's only, I knew a middle class woman who was homeless.
Yeah, middle class people are now the working poor.
Yeah.
And if middle class people are the working poor, well then what are poor people?
They're really poor, God love them.
You know, they're peasants. Because the king,
nobody cares.
The Lord King up there, Lord Leo, doesn't care. You're only a number. You're only a number on a sheet. You're only a statistic. You know, real people are dying.
Yeah.
Real mothers.
Absolutely. It's just shocking to see, you know, the horror stories that's come out the last few years. You know, a couple living in a graveyard, a woman by the graveyard in a car.
A woman dousing herself in petrol and setting herself on fire.
Jesus Mary.
A man sitting in his car, filling his car full of petrol and burning himself to death. How desperate do you need to be able to punish yourself that way?
Yeah, oh jeez, so sad.
You know, that's what's happening in Ireland. Like in 1950, 1960, I can't remember the year now. I think it's is either 1950 or 1960, I can't remember. But between that decade, an average of 3 people committed suicide in Ireland every year. You know, 3 people. We have now, on average, between unreported suicides, between death by misadventure, and between accidental deaths and suicides, about 1,400, 8 people a day are committing suicide in Ireland. In Kerry and Clare, just last weekend, 11 people committed suicide in less than 3 days.
Yeah, no, I knew...
2 counties.
Well, most of us have even known. I know a man who committed suicide. I know 2, actually, 2. And I knew them well. Both of them, money, situations, and now outwardly you'd never know. They look like everyday person going to the job. You'd never have known that.
Horrendous. And what people fail to remember is these people had families.
Yeah.
They had children.
Absolutely. One of them.
You know, they weren't loners. They weren't introverts. They had whole lives.
Yeah.
You know, they were productive up to the point where the government screwed everything up. The government bailed out the banks. They bailed out the corporation. And we, the people, paid for it.
Yeah.
and we the people are paying for it with our lives.
It's horrible. It's just so bad. I think, these two particular men I knew were very proud, and nobody even knew until they took on burdens for so long, financial issues.
Yeah.
And they killed them. Literally, they killed themselves. One hung himself just before Christmas. At the time, I was very angry because I thought it was selfish because he had young children. But I realised he just couldn't even face not being able to face his kids by not being able to give them what he wanted to.
Yeah. Like, men in this country, on a completely separate note, men in this country have been, demasculated. Is that the word they use? Is it demasculated?
Absolutely.
Every day of the week, I was talking to a friend of mine recently, and it came up about being a single father with 4 children. I have to explain to people that my children live with me.
Yes.
They don't live with their mother. And instead of people saying, "Oh God, aren't you great?" because that's what they normally say to a woman.
Yeah.
Oh, you're brilliant.
They probably just assume she was an alcoholic or something crazy.
But they always come out with the negatives, and they say, "Oh, isn't she such and such and such and such?" They never pat me on the back and say, "Aren't you great?" Not that I'm looking for that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not a victim. It is what it is. But it's the whole thing. Like, people will say, "Oh, somebody who commits suicide is a coward."
Yeah. I think it's just that relationships have been so pushed, and I think they've been just so pushed financially and
yeah. Well, what's the old Irish expression? When love goes out, when money goes out the door, love goes out the window.
Yeah. Years ago, that wasn't even so true, they used to say it, because they stuck together. But I think it's just nowadays pressure on people is just extreme, because I was even talking to my parents' generations where one of them only had to work. They had a really good house. Most people had a good home.
Yeah. And it's that generation that are looking at our generation saying, "What the hell is wrong with you?"
Two of you working night and day, you never see your kids.
And what they don't understand is that, like, when my parents bought their first home, they paid €1,000 for it.
Yeah.
I paid $250,000 for mine.
Yeah.
I paid 250,000% more for my home than they did for theirs. And they're comparing their situation to my situation.
Yeah.
And
it's insane.
It's hard to wrap your head around. But what we in the LFS movement are saying to them, you don't need to wrap your head around. You don't need to wrap your head around. You don't need to compare your apples with somebody else's oranges.
Yeah.
What you need to do is you need to stand up for all the people of this country.
Yeah, absolutely.
And say that what's going on in this country isn't right.
No.
It's not normal.
No,
and
absolutely not
are running
normal.
the country. Yeah. So we all agree on that.
No, yeah.
So we all need to unite together and say, "Oh, hold on a minute. The big pause button there."
Yes.
Psychopaths are running the asylum here.
Yes.
We can all go back to squabble about what we're all squabbling about afterwards. But the fact of the matter is we need to put in checks and balances into the government so we can hold them account.
Absolutely.
And we don't have that. And unless we stand up as a people and start saying enough's enough, then we're never going to have that. We might as well all emigrate at this rate,
Yeah.
But we just all keep coming back around in circles, and going back to the immigrants and going back to blaming this group or that minority.
Not even blaming. I don't blame them. I blame the government for taking them in. The Irish need to come first, and until you sort out the Irish houses, there's
absolutely nothing wrong with. We're one of the most generous nations in the world.
Absolutely, but we need to be generous to ourselves.
100%. But think of it like this as well, though. We have 2,500, 3,000 registered charities in Ireland. multiple charities doing the same job for the same issue.
And a lot of them are bogus, by the way. A lot of those, the charity doesn't even leave the country, and the one that does leave the country goes to the head of like different countries in Africa, and it never gets filtered down to the poor. A lot of them, you'd be better off giving money on the street than to give.
But that's a separate issue. The issue is that we shouldn't have any charity, because the government should be doing its job well enough that there is no need for a charity.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like an entire industry made out of thin air.
Yeah. Well, there's like, money making.
There's 30 charities involved in autism. So what's wrong with just having one charity involved with autism?
Because they're companies.
What's wrong with just having one charity involved with children? Why do you have to have 15 of them?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
a lot of them
you need 15 of your mates need a job. That's what's about.
Yeah.
You know, so let's create another one there. You know, and let's fund it from the same crowd. Like, I understand that services need to be supplied, but there's nothing wrong with the state supplying the services if the services had checks and balances. We have a hospital that's being built there that's so overrun, so overcosting, that we've now employed another company to come in at the cost of $450,000 or whatever they're going to spend to tell us that we've spent too much money. And everybody's been shoving the shoulders. No, that's hilarious.
Yeah. Oh,
that's just psychopathic.
Insane.
You know? It's insane. It's absolutely like the definition of insanity is when you do something over and over and over and over and over and over again and expect a different result.
Yes.
You know? That is the definition of insanity.
It absolutely makes me sick to the stomach, this government. Everything from 27% of Irish children going to school are homeless. Like
300,000. Use the figure. 300,000 children, according to the United Nations, and this is 10 years old. So just so you know, that report is 10 years old. I think it was done in 2006. 300,000 children are going to school hungry every day. 300,000 children are going to bed hungry every night. 3,000 of those children are homeless right now as you and I speak. Living in a hotel or in a hostel. Homeless children.
Absolutely. Well, I think we should only be concentrating on Ireland, because the UN, as far as I'm concerned, is a dodgy organisation. Once you have the Chief Counsel for Human Rights is from Saudi, it's a bullshit organisation. Saudi chop off people's heads for the time of the day. So, you know, if you have a Chief Counsel for Human Rights, a Saudi, you know it's a bullshit organisation. And you have on the head of your bullshit organisations Iran as well as the Chief Counsel. And then you have, like, even on Ireland, for the Women's Council, had voted in Saudi to be on the Women's Council. They had a women's meeting. This is not a fucking joke. They had a women's meeting where no women were allowed at it. Like, this is insane. And this is the UN are backing this bull.
Yeah, what is it? Yeah, they had a women's meeting where no women were allowed.
It's like a joke. It's, you know, these are like, they sound like jokes, but this is actually what happens in Islamic countries. Wow. And they are the head of the UN. Majority of in the UN are Islamic countries. There's no human rights in Islamic countries. There's no human rights in Saudi Arabia, Iran, or any Pakistan, or any of those. There's persecution for Christians and an absolutely inhumanity, gender apartheid in those countries. How could you have them for human rights? Like a whole ward of that is Sharia law being pushed into Islam, into Western countries. That's what all that is about. So I don't have any respect for the UN, because once you do that, you've made a joke of your organisation. It's all about
as some myself and my former colleagues have said, they've gone off mission.
But you know, and when people talk about the UN as if they were like, you know, take their facts and figures, or take, you know, it's something to look up. I'm like, they're a joke. Absolutely. And there's been loads of paedophiles on that. So, UN facts.
Here's the thing, and this is where I come from in relation to the United Nations. So you have a big, massive organisation that's called the United Nations. And with all the politics and all the jazz that have gone on the last 15, 20 years, there are actual people fundamentally on the ground trying to prevent humanitarian disasters. And when we talk about the UN as one big organisation, we have to also remember that there are actually people dying in the service of peace.
Well, there's a lot of women who are being killed for no reason.
I was a United Nations soldier, and my job was to bring humanitarian aid. I volunteered for that job. Nobody forced me to do it. And every Irish soldier that has ever gone abroad in this country is a volunteer. That's why on their uniform it says Irish volunteer. It's part of the reason. Because it's in the tradition of the men of 1916.
Absolutely. The Irish were brilliant in it. But the UN is an absolutely disgrace as an organisation.
But what we have to try and remember is that when we are, knocking... See, rather than talk about the United Nations as an organisation, what we should be talking about is the 1% that runs it.
Yes. Well,
and the 1% that runs it is the same 1% that's living in Ireland with all the money. Yeah, so that 1% holds all of the wealth.
Yeah, oil.
And they're the ones who move the pieces around the board. It's us down here on the ground are the ones that are dying.
Yes.
And they don't give a shit in the man.
They won't give a shit. They don't even give a shit about their own people. Why would they give a shit about Ireland or any other country? Have you seen what they do to their women? They don't give a shit. They don't even consider women as humans.
There's no difference between our government and a Saudi government. We might not be stoning women in the streets, but we are certainly telling them, we're telling them lies, saying, oh, no, you're fine, you don't have cancer. Oh, oops, the daisies. Sorry about that.
Absolutely. The government is horrific in that. And it should be kicked out. Absolutely. Yeah. But, why people quote the UN as if they're something good? They're nothing good. When you have the Chief Council of Human Rights of Saudi Arabia, that is dangerous. And that is money. And when you have countries like Ireland voting Saudi Arabia in for Women's Rights Council, then we know we have no government. They don't care about women's rights. There's no such thing as women's rights.
What did I say? I said I was outside the house in Roscommon. I just finished what I said about that. And I said, how do you expect young, educated men or women who've never had to want for a single thing in their lives, how do you expect them to run departments and know what it is to be living in fucking misery, in abject poverty, and it's relative. People say, well, it's not Africa, you're not living in a mud hut. Some people in this country are living in their homes with no electricity, no running water.
Yeah, it's worse than Africa. I have African friends who come from a wealthy African country and you actually laugh when people say that. It's like, you swear, a lot of people in Ireland are 10 times poor. Not all Africa is like dying or poor, as the media keeps showing it. Some of Africa, they're wealthy countries.
Yeah, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Africa is a massive continent.
People
and there are lots of countries there that are very affluent, very wealthy. But there are some areas there
that are the same as Europe.
Absolutely.
But because it's like the media love to push this down people's throats. Some of Europe, Eastern Europe, is as poor as Africa. Ireland, certain places, certain people are living worse than Africa. They're out there freezing and dying, as a lot of my African friends say.
That's the thing, right? That's the thing. The image is portrayed so that we, as charitable people, will pump money in, or put pressure on our governments to pump money in. And Ireland gives 300 or 400 million euros a year to African nations in support of whatever they're doing with the money. Making swimming pools or driving limousines or whatever it is they're paying, the money to pay for. Some of the money gets to where it's meant to go, and most of the money doesn't.
Very little or none. It really doesn't.
But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Right? But the images that we're shown by the media is to push us, to put pressure on our government to send that money over there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It doesn't matter where the money goes.
Well, it's our government who are doing it. They want our money.
But that's how the circle works.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, the League and the government working together against the Irish people.
Absolutely, yeah. You know? I mean, you saw that in the American presidential election and what's gone on since. You know, Donald Trump this, Donald Trump that, Donald Trump this. Everything is Donald Trump, then it's his fault for everything. I'm not defending the man, right? I'm not defending, you know, I'm not a...
Well, there's nothing wrong with defending the man. And you shouldn't have to apologise for defending the man.
No, but you do. That's the thing. But you call the racist if you don't, you know.
Oh, you're racist for what? He hires more black people and, you know, and has more, like, this is just insane. Like, if you look at the figures, the amount of people he's pulled up, I'm not going to dispute the figures there. The figures are there to prove that people want to go look. But most people just want to call you a racist. Yes, because they don't want to, they want to look at the Irish news, so overlook him.
It's absolutely easier to attack somebody and abuse them and call them names and threaten them and harass them, and it's easier to do all of those things than it is to pick up an actual piece of paper and read it or go educate yourself.
Yeah.
It's easier to do these things. But that's just my opinion. And that's nothing to do with the UNFF movement. You know,
he has pulled up America. Nobody could dispute that. It's not an opinion. I mean, years ago, what was called facts is now called opinions. There is two different things. Your fact is your opinion is you don't like red. That's your opinion. A fact is whether Donald Trump has moved up America. You can look at the facts. That's not an opinion. That is the fact. There you go. There's a figure, and that's where he comes from. That's a fact. But the liberals in this country, in all countries, are just insane. Everything is now your opinion, which is ridiculous.
What happens is, it's a little bit more mind-boggling. I'd agree with your premise on what you said there, but the problem is when that's distributed out to the general public, the general public will read opinion as fact.
Yes. That's emotional,
you know?
As fact.
And then
they don't like Trump.
And then what they start doing is, I read it in the paper the other day that such and such and such and such did such and such and such and such. And that's only an opinion, mate.
Yeah. And that's the thing.
No, that was in the paper. That was written in the paper. This is what it said. That's only an opinion.
It's like, Donald Trump is completely, apparently, sexist, right? That's an opinion. Yeah. Whether he's doing well as
and yet his organisation employs more women than men, and he's the first one to ever do this, that, the other. Yeah, but at the end of the day, like, you know what I mean? And I've heard men talking about, how Donald Trump is a misogynist and how his locker room talk is disgusting, and I'm looking at them saying, "You're for real? You've said far worse."
Yes, that's the whole thing. Absolutely.
But when you call somebody out on the bullshit, you're called a racist.
Oh, absolutely. They don't want to hear it. And even women, like I've said it to women who insisting again, he's this and he's that, and he said, I said, you said worse about men. Men have said worse about. I know everybody. There is nobody who hasn't said that. Come on. I'm not in politics. Yeah. I'm like, so therefore, if you got into politics, it's just, they get ridiculous.
I saw a video the other day. Someone sent me a video the other day of a woman feminist who wants to murder all men before they're born. All men.
These feminazis are just the most ridiculous creatures because they're not doing women any.
But the amount of people that came on to her and said, "Well done, well done for saying well done. Aren't you brilliant? You're fantastic. Well done. We're behind you all the way." I'm looking at it's fucking real. She wants to murder every man on earth.
Do you ever notice what they talk about? They don't ever talk about real women's issues. They don't talk about going to the mosque and disputing gender apartheid. They don't go to, around into demonstration about female mutilation clinics in Dublin. About the rights. They don't distribute about or child marriages. They don't distribute about it. No, what do they want? They want gender neutral toilets. They want men to be. that identify as women to be able to run women's races. These are all anti-women things. Okay, so a man has that day he wants to be a woman, right? And now these women have trained all their lives.
But why is someone's... What I don't understand as a normal person, sorry, I shouldn't say a normal person, but just as an average Joe, right? I don't understand.
You'd be still for that.
Yeah, no, just as an average Joe, I don't understand what people's problem is when it comes to somebody's sexual orientation or what they want to call themselves or what they want or what they don't. I don't understand what the problem is with it. You know, if you want to identify whatever you want to identify with, best of luck to you. As long as you're happy, you hold on to that.
The problem with it is, and I'll tell you the problem. The problem is they don't just want to identify it, right? What they want to do is see equal rights with women. So that means that...
But there is equal rights.
Yeah, no. What I'm saying is, listen, so they want to join, if they identify as a woman, they have been born with all male testosterone and whatever, but they want to join all races or whatever as a woman. Now these women who are real women who are born with women's hormones and women's bodies have no chance, even though they've trained all their lives and practiced all their lives. The men have, whether you like it or not, whether the world likes it or not, 2.5 times the strength of women. Women carry more fat to carry babies. Men grow and carry more muscles. They also have something called testosterone, their hormone, that they will be stronger and they can reach.
But you do realise you're talking to a man, like.
Yeah. What I'm saying is that is where the issue comes from. Not that they want to wear a dress or anything. It's that they kind of go, oh, you know what? I'm not going to run a man's race. I identify as a woman.
No. Okay, hold on.
So that's
another video that I was sent. And people send me the mad things, and I wouldn't be into all of them, and I would be into some of them. They just send me mad stuff because, you know, everybody wants to be metal at the moment, and then everybody wants to, on the other end, everybody wants to kill me. But and then that's fine, right? But that's all good. But somebody sent me a video of a boxing match in Canada, where one of the first gender male
crushed her head.
He did awful damage. And
people were thought that was great.
And I was scratching my head watching it, trying to think. I said, okay, well, fair enough, right? He wants to be a she, and that's fine. That's no problem. And then he uses she uses whatever you want to call it, and batters the other woman.
To that.
And to me, that's domestic abuse. That's
absolutely. But because now there's all gender news. Another story is a guy who identified as a woman was put to a woman's prison, and he ended up raping a few women in there. Shock horror! Like, this is just ridiculous. Then they want to also be able to go into women's toilets, which is not a problem, except for if there's little girls in there. And they're actually just saying they identify as a woman, but they're really a paedophile. This is where these problems come in. How do you know?
You don't know.
It's all very well that they're allowed to wear dresses and all that. That's not the issue. It's the issues what comes with everything else with what they want.
Yeah, but look, a lot of us just carry on, and we see the best in people, and we see the best in the world, and we just want the best for everybody.
But you see, there's a lot of people who are quite clever and can see loopholes. It was the same. It wasn't that priests became paedophiles when they went in there. There was a clever archbishop who hung around now they weren't paedophiles, it was a step above it when they were into teen boys. Can't remember the name, there's an actual name for it.
Rent boys?
No, they're into boys, like the teen boys, there's an actual name for it. It's not paedophilia, it's the next one up. But anyway, they were into that kind of group boys.
It's called teenophilia then.
Yeah, but it's particular boys. And he was in a circle of men who were into these. He told them to join the priesthood. None of them had any calling. And then they hired and brought people into the priesthood who had these quite weird feelings. And that is where it went very much down the hill. It wasn't that any of these men had callings to become priests. Now, there was a few that got in who were kind of warped, but there was an actual person who organised this. It wasn't by accident, because people, paedophiles aren't stupid. They see loopholes. And that is where it's dangerous.
Yeah. I didn't find. So when it comes to paedophile priests, we know all about it.
But there's going to be loopholes. Now that the rats are out of that. But there's Islam now, which, because Muhammad married a 6-year-old child, there will be rats who will go into that. Now there's already, because it has a tolerance for that sort of abuse anyway, there will be all the rats who used to be Catholic priests will suddenly find this new wanting to become Islamic. And all the other paedophiles in the country. They'll always find loopholes unless you have a good government or good systems in place, the same as these men who decide, we want women's rights. And it all sounds very good at the beginning. And then you realise it's more to do with than putting on a skirt. It's nothing to do with it.
If there was any reason for the reintroduction of the death penalty, well, then paedophilia would be that.
Yeah.
You know? And anyone that's convicted or found, you know,
absolutely.
It's not a disease. It's not a disease, and it's not something you can be cured from.
But they're going to start looking for tolerance for it. This leftist.
Oh, they're already looking for tolerance for it. But I'm telling you, there'll be pushback on that one.
No.
You know, that's the drop.
That'll be the new thing. If you don't do that, then you're I don't know, you're some sort of phobia. They'll find a phobic word for you. If you don't have a tolerance for it. That is where we're heading.
Yeah. I'd love to see somebody calling me now a paedophobic. I swear to God. No thanks.
But that's where we're heading, because the left don't affect them. The loonies have taken over this bloody country.
Well, that's the way it's going, you know. Recently I had some people down for coffee and tea for a meeting at my home. And I put out onto the table, because people are calling me a racist, for because of the LFS movement, right? People are calling me a racist.
And they don't even know what that means. What race are you against? Yellow vest not being a yellow. Is a vest now a race? Like, they don't even know what these bloody words mean. I wish somebody would just give them a dictionary. Look up what this means.
Well, I think it's important to use the word so liberally, right? Because it actually takes away from the meaning of what actual racism actually is.
It is.
And you know, I just on my own personal history, my stepfather was Egyptian.
Yeah.
And my mother remarried when we were about 9 or 10, and I went to school every day and experienced real racism in Ireland. And I'm a white guy, you know, because I was the white child going home to the black daddy, you know, and that was real racism. And now you're being called a racist if you don't like the colour of someone's hair, or if you don't like the colour of someone's shoes. That's how bad it's after getting. And it takes away
it's more than you're racist if you don't like my opinion. My opinion is this, that, and other thing. It's like, I won't eat eggs because it's from baby chicks, but I believe in abortion up to 9 months because it's only 1%.
You and I have had a conversation. I don't know how long we've been talking, but
sorry.
We had a conversation. We're having a conversation. We're sharing opinions. They're not like rooted in any, you know, any hatred. That's different. Like people flippantly call people Nazis. What the Nazis did in Europe to not only the Jews but also to the European people,
absolutely,
was to systematically industrial murder. Now, to call somebody a Nazi, it takes away from what they did, and it also takes away from the victims that they killed.
Absolutely.
You know, and so to flip the words like, you know, Nazi and racist and...
But the very thing, Nazis were far left. They were never right. Conservative values were never...
They were socialists.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever happened to them along the way, whatever happened to their ideology along the way...
But that is socialism. Look all over the world.
They didn't get the entire German population to follow them for no reason.
Yeah.
You know,
sure, the Irish, the whole left going on, it could easily happen again. I mean, this whole, I don't know whether you've noticed it, there is a huge anti-Israel. Even when I talk about it in this show, I get hate kind of comments because the Irish absolutely cannot stand Israel to a point where that is actually...
Well, I would only ever say, a person that's actually been to Israel and the Holy Land and worked in the Middle East and, been to all of these countries, all of these people, I would only ever say to them, if you feel so strongly about what is happening over there, go there and help. Go there and help.
No, they'd be all over Palestine trying to kill Israelis. I don't think it'd be a good idea. The majority of Irish want to kill Israelis. It's absolutely ridiculous. They have no idea what's going on. They only know from the Irish media.
But you have to remember that it's the media that feeds them.
Yeah, absolutely.
It isn't a history book, or it's not a history lesson or a history professor. It's someone with an opinion writing an article in a newspaper that they're picking up and or watching some footage on the news.
Yeah.
I recently asked somebody, is there, to describe the Palestinian control area, for example. And they said, it's this blown up, bullet hole ridden desert land full of rocks and everything is dead and there's bodies lying everywhere and rubble out. I said, Jesus, is that right? And then I showed him a video of a guy standing out giving an interview why he hated the Israelis with a McDonald's and a KFC behind him.
It's insane. I think a lot of Irish people need to actually...
No, don't get me wrong what I'm saying. I'm not trying to defend what the Israelis do. And I'm not trying to defend what the Palestinians do. Because what both sides do is abhorrent because they murder people.
Yes.
And people die and children die. That's just wrong.
Absolutely.
And,
no, I agree with that. Well, I do think... Look, I've never been there, so I'm not going to give an opinion. I just think that...
But they need to be... But at the end of the day, the issues that go on in Israel and Palestine have bugger all to do with us.
Absolutely. But
right?
Even why they flew the flag.
And all of the advocates that are screaming from the rooftops about, this, that, and the other thing, need to get their shit together and start screaming from the rooftops about our people. And when we get our shit together as a nation,
100%,
and we've solved our problems, then we can go and start addressing the world's problems and solving the world's problems. But we can't do that when everything is falling apart here.
Yeah.
We just can't do it.
No.
And that's not being racist. That's just having a bit of common sense. Like I had a reporter come over to me 2 weeks ago on Saturday. And he said, what are you doing? What are you protesting for? And I said, well, for starters, you stepped over 2 homeless people to talk to me. What do you think we're here for?
Crazy.
And he stepped over 2 homeless people as if there were pieces of dirt on the ground.
They do it all the time. Like they had this...
going back to his cozy home.
Oh, yeah. But they had this Syrian refugee night out where you had to pay €50 a glass of wine to get in, in Dublin. The amount of people who stepped over Irish in the lashing rain, freezing, a mother with holding a child to get into the door and to pay their €50 for the glass of wine for this good feeling while they walked over, didn't even look at the Irish. Didn't even recognize them there.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether that woman was Irish or not.
It does matter because this is her country. It absolutely does matter. To me, that does matter. This is her country, and nobody cares. If she was brown or refugee, then they'd all be running over going, "Oh, you're all right," because she was Irish. They couldn't care.
But I'll give you a funny statistic. Over half the homeless population of Ireland are foreign nationals.
Over half. Over half. I've never even seen one foreign
50%
homeless.
of all the homeless people in Ireland are foreign nationals.
But they all should be sent home.
The Yellow Vest movement has been accused of being racist. Right? Listen to this, right? So the Yellow Vest movement in Ireland has been accused of being racist. we must be the worst racists on the planet. And the worst, it's so ridiculous and absurd. It's pathetic. Because we're humanists. We don't want to see anybody homeless. We don't want to see anybody hungry. Regardless of race, colour and creed.
But I do believe that the Irish should be first in their own country. I think every country should put their own people first.
But that's
whether they're
French,
the French should be first, the Italians should be first.
Yeah, number one, I'm not going to call you any names for that. That's your belief, and you're entitled to your belief, right?
No, I actually believe that. I totally believe. Yeah, and I think anybody who doesn't is just stupid. I think every country, whether you're American, you should put every country, whether what part of Africa, Botswana should, and the Botswanas do put their people first. One thing I say about Botswana is fantastic is that they will put their own people.
And I've been accused of, oh yeah, you want to open borders. Oh no, hold on a minute. I never said that.
I don't believe in open borders. Absolutely, it's dangerous. You wouldn't see Botswana, and that is one thing. But you'd never hear the Botswanas being called racism. They don't have open borders. They have the African Union, which Botswanas refused to join because they had to have open borders. So Botswana said, no, they wouldn't do that because they're not taking in any Africans. They have their own people to look after, and they look after their own people. They wouldn't just take anybody in from the world. And nobody was going to stand there going, oh, Botswana's so racist. They look after their own people first. And I absolutely think they're right.
You'd be racist for calling anybody from Botswana racist because they're all black.
Yeah. But they wouldn't have open borders, or they certainly wouldn't have anybody coming into their country and just taking whatever. No, but
that's their choice. That's their choices. But that's their choice as a people, and their people voted for that or didn't, I don't know. But
they did, yeah.
But that's their choice as a people. But how, at the end of the day,
and they're right.
But no, that's fine. And that's, that's your opinion, and a thousand other people's opinion.
That's their own country. Yeah. Every country has a right to look after their own people.
What I'm saying is I don't know anything about that to make an opinion on it. But I'm not going to challenge you on that opinion, and I'm not going to call you any names on that opinion.
If I was Botswana and was saying, this is great, we have Botswana's people, if you ask them, they think it's great. They actually think the Irish government is insane having open borders.
But again, at the same time, I'm sure some people in Botswana think it's a stupid idea. You know what I mean? And that's fine. But that's what I'm saying.
No,
perfectly fine.
They're all happy that they have a safe country, and not like other African countries. They're quite happy. But they have a very safe country. It's the same as Eastern Europeans. A lot of Eastern Europeans are quite happy that they don't have open borders and they don't take crap from the EU. They're very happy about it. In fact, the majority of them are happy. The Polish, all Eastern Europeans.
Why would you think then? Why would you think that our government is so eager to placate? That we see Poland and the Ukraine and the rise of the national parties in those countries and the rise of nationalist movements in those countries. I don't even know what that means, but why do you think the Irish government is so...
It's completely opposite. It's anti. So I watched a video of Leo when he was about 20.
I've seen the more recent one when he's 2040 plan. A million people.
No. This is when he was actually young. He was before he was actually working in the EU. He was a stench in Washington. He was very young at this stage. Now I don't know. He was probably about 20, early 20. And he said when he gets into Irish government, and he was hoping at this stage that he would get into Irish government, he just joined Fine Gael. And they were asking him questions on YouTube. And he said he'll change everything about Ireland. It was obvious then he had a complete distaste for everything that was Irish, that he wanted to change every single thing. He never identified himself as being Irish before he went into politics. He identified himself as Indian. He didn't want anything. He wanted this total multicultural. He doesn't like the Irish having a race. He wants them all what he saw as multicultural, but what it is, it's anti-Irish. But in his video, he totally clearly says, I will change everything. And that's what he's doing.
I haven't seen that video.
Have a look at it.
It's just... No, I haven't melted enough. I've 4 kids to raise, and some of the stuff people send me is just bonkers stuff, you know, and I'm just not into it. You know, my biggest thing is, how do we change what's happening on the ground?
And that's the main thing, is that we need to focus is get Leo out, get them all out. But we need to put somebody in who is actually going to put the Irish first. And I mean the indigenous Irish race. And I don't care what people think that that's racist. That is not racist. The French should put the French first. The Germans should put the Germans first. The Botswana should put the Botswanas first. The Nigerians should put the Nigerians first. Everyone should put the people first.
It doesn't matter at the end of the day if citizens initiated referendum was enacted tomorrow morning. It wouldn't matter if the head of the government was from Germany. It wouldn't matter if the head of, if his Tánaiste was from, it was an Eskimo. It doesn't matter where they all come from. It doesn't matter what their agendas are, because when citizens initiate a referendum, they're held account. Simple as. They're held account. Iceland were in the same dire straits as we were at the beginning of the crash, and they chose a different path than we did. And we've put the next 3 generations of Irish people in hock. That's if there is 3 generations of Irish people.
There won't be.
In hock.
We're living
to the EU for the next 80 whatever years or whatever. And Iceland, they're grand.
They're fine. Yeah, perfect.
And Iceland was screaming, I said, what are you doing? Do what you're doing. And we were like, no. We just want to do this instead. And everybody was saying, no, don't do that. Yeah, we'll just do this. No. And then we stupidly did it, and Greece followed suit. And now look at the state of that place.
Yeah, and Spain.
And Spain, and Portugal, And if you look at all the countries where there's a rise in the Yellow Vest movement, right? And this is why I suppose some people are saying, this is all Nazis and this is all the rise of the Alps, whatever they want to say, right? Is all of the countries that are experiencing huge economic disparities between what the people are being told and what the people are experiencing.
Yeah.
Everything is great here, but hold on a second, the rate is up 50%. Oh, everything is brilliant here, but unemployment's up 40%. Everything is brilliant. In Ireland at the moment, young people under the age of 25, I think, there's nearly a 40% unemployment rate. And but apparently we're 0 unemployment. So scratch your head about that. Maybe there's only one person there that's unemployed that's under the age of 25 there, if that's the case. Mm-hmm. But people only need to stop reading the opinion piece.
Yeah.
And instead of picking up a newspaper tomorrow morning, go to your computer, type in CSO, Census Statistics Office, and have a read down to the statistics. That'll tell you what's going on in Ireland. You want to know. Who cares what the Prince of England is doing tomorrow morning for his lunch? Who cares what football team won a match? Who cares about any of that stuff? Because it's meaningless. It's meaningless drivel to get your mind away from the fact that you can't control the destiny of your own country. And when citizens initiate a referendum, boom, you can control it. You can be directly responsible for the course of the future of this country and the welfare of all the people on this island.
Absolutely. So get out.
Anyone who wants to disagree with that, then,
Yeah, everybody, get out. No, anybody who's listening to this will be on your side. We are still getting a few trolls, but majority of people are actually...
Of course they're going to get trolls. But I'd ask the trolls, if you have such a problem with the Yellow Vest movement, start your own movement. Start your own Yellow Vest movement. Run it as how you see fit. Get out onto the streets, because all of you. You either support the fact that you want to feed children, you either want to support the fact that you don't want anyone homeless in this country, you want to support the fact that you want everybody treated with preventative medicine instead of lying on a trolley or dying in an ambulance being driven halfway across the country because there's no cardiac care. Like, all of these issues. I dare the trolls to set up their own movement. They don't believe in what Ireland is doing, and set up their own movement. And on the days we call a massive big protest in this country, or on the days that we do whatever we're doing, they're more than welcome to come along. It doesn't matter if you're left, it doesn't matter if you're right. Simple as, put on the yellow jacket, you're declaring to everybody that you support, that you want better for this country. Well, that should be enough. And if you find that somebody is arguing with you, if somebody is attacking you, turn your back on them.
Yeah.
Be the better person. Be the person that the country needs. So they can throw it away. But it's not going to stop, but it's only going to grow.
Yeah.
You know? So
I think everybody get your yellow vest out, find out in your local community where it's been held, or as Glenn said, if there's not one, start one. Let's start getting movement, because we can talk till the cows come through, as Glenn has said, and there's many things I'll agree and many things I'll disagree with Glenn, and many things, you know, that he'll know and have more facts on, and some things that I'll have more facts on. But either way, it doesn't really matter. We all agree on one thing: the homeless, the healthcare is in bits. And where it has been stopped, our government is continuing on this crazy road where women are dying. They're not being held accountable. Leo was the health minister for the time of the cervical cancer. There's nobody being held accountable to this.
Well, all of them. Here's the thing. How many bankers have been sent to prison for bankrupting this country?
Was it one?
For lying. One. One. So he is responsible for bankrupt. He and he alone is responsible. Now the government's answer to us, we were incompetent that we didn't have anybody qualified enough to prosecute these criminals.
You see, the real book is, if we had a proper government, it wouldn't have happened. I do agree with jailing the bankers, but really, we need to actually go a step further. We need to be jailing the government for not governing the country.
100%.
That's where the book stops. It's the same as if you have a company. You know, where does the book stop? The book stops at the government. Neil was health minister, and Harris is now, and can he go back to even Bertie Ahern? Whoever it was that has this crash on this country all need to be jailed. Because that is why you are a Taoiseach or a Taoiseach, is that the book does stop there. If you can't govern the country, then you shouldn't have got into politics, and you shouldn't have told the country that you could do the job if you couldn't. It's not good enough to say, sorry, we made a mistake, we weren't very good. Well, no, you shouldn't have taken up the job. You lied. You weren't able to take the job, so you're fired. So not more than you're fired, you're going to be criminalised for this.
100%. And one of the first things that should be done is that all politicians' salaries should be being slashed by
absolutely. Slash back down to bloody minimum wage. That's what I said.
I wouldn't call it minimum wage. Let's be fair, like.
I would bring us down to minimum wage. Why should they be paid more? Why should they? What are they doing?
They should get an average industrial wage. That's what they should get. Absolutely. And a staff that complements their needs for you know, for a secretary or whatever. That's all supplied anyhow. You know, like having an expense account of 90,000, another expense account over there for another 30,000 or whatever.
Pay for those stuff.
I don't have like you and I don't have expense accounts to have conversations on the phone for an hour and a half, right? So, you know, or to pay for the electricity that's going to the phone, or to pay for the house that we're in. And, you know what I mean? Like, there recently, ministers said, they wanted more expenses because they were finding the cost of living in Dublin very expensive. And yet one of the ministers had a house that he was renting in Dublin to other people that he was profiting off.
Same as Michael D. Higgins on the bloody property.
So he was asking for we the people to put him up in a hotel 2 or 3 nights a week while he made profit off the building that he was renting out. No, what he should have done is, you know, maybe because he doesn't care about the homelessness, he should, throw those people out onto the street as well, and then he wouldn't be able to ask the Irish people to foot the bill for his lifestyle.
And so he just cut all it's like, it annoys me, all of it. But we need to all get out and start protesting in big numbers and get Leo out. Absolutely get him out. And he should be locked up as far as I'm concerned. But okay, if we can't lock him up,
first thing what I think is that, at the end of the day, there will be inquiries. There are already inquiries, and we can see the corruption in the Garda Síochána. We can see the corruption in the Department of Welfare and Children. We can see the corruption in all of it. Nearly every state of the arm of the government, we can see the corruption. And there will be, there won't be people held accountable, obviously. They'll be given their paycheck and their pension and sent off into the wilderness, and then maybe in a couple of years' time they might win for a tea shop like good old Bertie is going to do, and everyone's going to forget what he did.
Yeah.
But, that I suppose that's what they call being Irish, isn't it?
We need better than that. We deserve better than that. We
absolutely deserve better than that. 1916, nearly 1,800 men went out of 220,000 men. They changed the course of Irish history. They were lined up against the wall after being spat on, stoned, trolled by the people of Dublin, and shot dead. And it was only when they were dead that people care.
Yeah.
Right now, this minute, 20,000 people are dead. And people should care an awful lot more.
Yeah.
Brothers, sisters, mothers, daughters, cousins, aunts, uncles. Everybody's been touched by it.
Absolutely.
Everybody should be absolutely enraged by it.
Absolutely.
But it's up to the individual.
And everybody, we need to all come together. And that's one thing we need to
100%,
stop, divide,
100%.
and conquer. We do need to come together.
Yeah.
So, I'm 100%.
For all the trolls and the naysayers out there, for all the people out there that are saying, it never works. For all of those people, instead of putting all of your energy in attacking the people who are actually trying to change stuff, just like you're trying to change stuff, focus all that attention on the government.
Yeah.
And for all those people who refuse to do it, are being paid and bought for by the government.
Yeah.
And should be ashamed of themselves.
Absolutely. Some of them being paid by Brussels. All these bullshit. There's a lot of bullshit organisations, charity organisations here paid by Brussels to destroy and tell life. And then the media is continuing on, but it's just anyway. It's huge. But let's all get out there and start protesting. The buck stops at the government, and all of the other organisations don't really matter because they wouldn't be able to do what they are doing if the government weren't allowing them to do it. So we really all need to focus on the government because that is the one who can change everything from the Gardaí, the media, everything. Until we have a new...
Not just for the Gardaí and media. Like I said, once we get our act together, this country could be a leading light the world over. I'm not talking about just bringing people here for them to live, and everything's all rosy, have a new life and whatever, there you go. I'm talking about actually going to other countries and actually dealing with the problem on the ground in that country.
Well, if we wanted to help other countries, that's the way to do it. You don't bring them here and think, I always thought that was a stupid idea. Anyway, what other time you're taking people out, you go and you create and you help them. You bring in your military and you protect. But actually, Syria is looking for their own people back. You should be sending them back. Syria's government is out crying for the people back, apparently.
Yeah.
So,
that's just like, in fairness, that's just like Leo standing up there and saying he wants Irish nurses to come home, It isn't really we have to be seen to say it.
Well, I do think the majority is women at the moment, which are probably having a great time now because there's not men are all left.
We'll let you go because we can talk forever. But everyone, get out this Saturday if you're in the Remembrance Gardens in Dublin, and where else? Just find out. Google it. Go up into your Facebook and find out in your area where it is. Get your yellow vest for your €1 down in your pound store, and off you go. And start meeting and start getting the numbers out there. Because they had this movement, not my tea shops, and I thought there'd be loads of people there. There was only a few people that showed up. Absolutely.
There's a little bit of method in the madness. We couldn't demonstrate. They blocked off access to the roads and prevented our people from turning up, basically, and then prevented anybody that was there from leaving. But at the end of the day, they rolled out the resources. They blocked up the entire city. We didn't. Even if there was only 80 of them. 80% of France opposed the Yellow Vest movement. And, citizens initiated a referendum. Now, they can't all be mad in the head. They can't all be mad. You know? They can't all be nationalists. They can't all be left-wing. They can't all be right-wing.
There's nothing wrong with being nationalist. It's become a dirty word. That is where our forefathers, 1916, were nationalists. But otherwise, we wouldn't have ever... We'd still be in part of Britain, or part of, the UK, if we didn't have nationalists. That is where we come from. We've had 800 years of nationalists. Now we're being told that that's dirty. Since when is that dirty? We were all told they were heroes.
You know?
Like, if they were alive now, they'd be told they're racist, dirty people. Where at the time, they were like heroes. We were all told we're heroes up to now.
We had to kill them first before we became heroes.
Yeah. You know? So. Heroes, but they wouldn't even they'd be told they were racist. Racist. Yeah. For wanting to.
I remember at the time when they were doing their thing, they were all breeding. They were trolled, and they were called every name under the sun, and they were victimized, and they were, and all of the rest, and abused by the public and by the authorities. And 1,800 men changed the course of this country. 1,800 men and women changed the course of this country. And people need to bear that in their head. Doesn't matter where you lie in politics in this country. You believe that all the injustices that are happening in this country are wrong, then you have a moral obligation as a human being to get out and do something about it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Glenn, I'm going to let you go, and thank you so much for coming on the show. And we will talk to you maybe in a week or 2 weeks to find out how things are going on. We'll have a quick chat. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
And, very best of luck to you, and thank you very much for your listeners for listening.
Thank you so much, Glenn. Good luck, and I will be there on Saturday.
Oh, well, we're more than welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm going to talk to you then, Glenn.
Okay, God bless.
Thank you very much. God bless. Bye, bye, bye.
Bye, bye, bye.
Banks are corrupt to the core! The banks are corrupt to the core! The banks are corrupt to the core!
You are listening to Irish News Radio at irishnews.net. Email news@irishnews.net.